Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Hope and the Truth. I'm Lance Parvin. As always, we're here to renew your hope, strengthen our faith in the Lord. With me today, Lance Daniels. Lance, welcome to the show.
Thanks, sir.
How are you today?
I'm fine. Wonderful.
Beautiful day outside. Actually, like 70-something degrees in Vegas. That's amazing in and of itself. Let's just jump right into it. So
Okay.
give me a little thing of who you are and what do you currently do?
What I currently do, I drive limos.
Okay.
And, I go in at 3 a.m. to 11:30. So I like to go in and get all the stackers and everybody who want to go to the strip club.
Yeah. That makes for an early day.
Right.
For an early day.
Exactly.
What initially got you into driving?
Well, my ex, she, one of the jobs I was working for, they went bankrupt.
Okay.
So we got a call in the middle of the night saying, bring the uniform in and everything. So after about 2-3 months, my ex-wife, she said, well, didn't you drive limos in Jersey and New York? I said, yeah, but I don't want to do that. I said, I was in my 20s. So she filled the application out for me and got the interview for me. And yeah, so when I went in, they said, well, we're not hiring right now. And the lady said, but hold on. Next thing I know, I'm sitting there, and I get an interview. And I get hired on the same day.
See? Yeah. God bless. God works in mysterious ways.
Right.
But we're not here talking about limos.
Right.
Actually, Lance, number one, there's two Lances on the stage at one time, which is amazing in and of itself, too. He has an amazing story. Pretty dynamic background. Has been through a lot in his life. So first, let's talk about the car accident. How this whole thing got started.
Okay, the car accident, rented a car from Dollar Rental.
And how long ago was this?
June 28th, 1989.
All right.
It was, we was coming from Panama City, Florida. It was about 2 miles away from the house. It was 2 a.m. in the morning, on a Tuesday morning. So as I'm driving, I'm going into a C curve, and I'm pressing on the brakes, and nothing. So I tell the guys, I have Jamie in the back, God bless the dead, he passed away, and Gerald in front. And I said, y'all wake up. I said, we have no brakes. So they looked at me, it's like, man, stop playing. And I said, no, serious, we have no brakes. I said, y'all embrace for impact. So it was no way I can try to turn that curve or slow down. So I tried to go into the curve, and the car flipped over about 5 times and ran into a concrete sewage wall. Yeah, so they had to cut me out. They got Jamie out first, and Gerald was next. But me, the dashboard was crushed all over me. So I broke, when we went for impact, I broke my right arm. I have a steel plate in there to keep it together. And the dashboard was open. So we had to wait till paramedics and the fire department get there. When they got there, they had to cut me out. And all I'm hearing, oh, the car gonna blow, it's gonna blow, because the gas tank was leaking. So they got me out the car. When they got me out the car, they put me on that hardwood stretcher, and we're in the middle of the highway, and I don't see nothing. Everything's just spinning. And I'm just praying to God, like, please, God, forgive me for everything. I'm sorry. I was only 19. Yeah. So they ripped my tank top open, and they said clear. After the 3rd time, I was gone. I was in a coma for like 3 weeks. And then when I woke up, my legs were stretched here, stretched there, my arms and everything, my face was wrapped up. My whole room was filled up with family, like over 30-something people. So of course I see Gerald, and I asked about Jamie. They said, oh, he's fine, he's just recovering. They didn't want to go. So as I'm laying there, I know I don't feel my lower part. And I feel all of this and everything, and they coming and they stretching me and everything, and I'm like, well, I don't feel that. So I was paralyzed from waist down.
Gotcha. Well, did they give you a diagnosis, or I should say after that, as you're recovering, did you get a prognosis of were you going to be a paraplegic? Was it permanent?
Right. So they said I'd never walk.
Okay.
They said I'd never walk, and you see this mark I have right here.
Yeah.
When I started having some feeling, I kept telling my family, I can feel my leg, pinch me. And they pinch me, I go, ouch. They said, you don't feel that. I'm like, no, I feel it.
Yeah. So
nobody didn't want to believe me, so I had to walk in the room. So finally, when everybody got out the room, I said, I'm going to stand up. So I stood up, and I put all my strength on my upper body. And as soon as I let it go, I fell, and I hit the dresser. And they, you know you can't walk, stop. I don't know, the doctor said you can't walk and everything. But I kept trying. And over the time, You know, I kept saying I can walk, and one day I managed to get to the hallway. When I got to the hallway, it was like, wow, you can walk.
See, to me, that's faith.
Yeah.
That's faith. People say you can't do it, and that's the amazing thing is that it's miraculous. Like you'll do, be like, no, I'm telling you, this is going to happen. People are like, I don't know, and then they see it.
Yeah.
And it's when you see a miracle happen, it's how do you react to that? You know, how does someone, you know yourself, it's a weird thing when you put that out there for someone and they actually see what happened. It's just amazing.
You gotta believe, you gotta have faith. Because of course, I was mad at the world because they said I'd never walk again, and I had my family come over, and first thing they coming out on a Friday night, going out to the club, but they want to stop and see me first, and they said, "How you doing?" I'm like, "How you think I'm doing? Y'all about to go out party?"
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in this wheelchair, rolling up to the porch, watching y'all drive off, pumping the music. I'm 19 years old, so I was really, really mad. But eventually, I got over it, and I laid in the bed, and I just looked at my leg, and I concentrated. And I'm trying to make it move, or make it jump, or do something.
Yeah.
And one day, I just kept looking, and it could have been my mind, or it could have been reflex, but I looked at it, and it finally moved and everything. And I was like, "There's some hope."
Yeah, that's what it's about. Renewing hope.
Right.
And that's the key thing is that you get a diagnosis like that. And I'm not making this about me, but I know a few years ago I was hit on my drug driver. And it actually severed C4, C5, and C6 in my spinal cord, annular tearing. And I was told I'd never walk again. They didn't even understand I was alive. So I know what it's like to get a diagnosis and a prognosis, and I heard nothing. I'm just like, whatever.
Right.
So, I mean, it's one thing where you want to be realistic with a person and say, this is your best. But people don't know, number one, that human drive. And they don't understand, sometimes they don't understand faith.
Right.
It's like, it's not in our control, it's in God's control. Now, that was maybe one of your first trials.
Right.
Let's go to the next one. Fast forward, how many years later?
So this was '89 when the accident happened. Now, I got a steel plate, I got screws in my pelvis bone, they took my spleen out and everything. So now, I'm 37, back in 2007, I'm 37, and I was working for Republic, the garbage company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I'm hanging on the back of the truck, I'm feeling dizzy, I'm seeing spots, and I don't understand what it is. Finally, the doctors found out that my prognosis was I had a tumor in my pituitary gland. Once they told me that, maybe a week later, I had a stroke. I had a stroke, I lost my whole left side. They said if I was to get it back, I'd drag my leg. And they said, I won't have no feeling or nothing like that. I gained a lot of weight. I had got up to 360 pounds. Now I'm like 215. And I just feel great. I feel amazing once I met you and you told me about everything.
Yeah. See, this is actually when Lance and I connected after this had happened. And when we first met, it was very interesting because I don't really know if he lost hope, but the prognosis that he was given was not a good outlook. That you got to do this, you're going to have to do this. And we consulted. I gave him, our best advice. I'm only a man. And so since we met, why don't you talk about how far you've come since the stroke when we first met, your limited mobility, and then stuff that you can actually do now?
Well, when I first met Lance, I was in a lot of pain. I had a spinal cord stimulator in me, and it was my second spinal cord stimulator. They were saying, the doctor was saying that, well, they're going to take me off this, they're going to take me off that. So I didn't want to be in pain, so I said, of course, all right, I get on it. But once I got on it, my body was rejecting it. I was losing weight, my skin was getting dark and everything. So I was introduced to Lance, and I'm totally against marijuana and everything. But once Lance broke it down to me and told me, just try it for 30 days, just see can it work. And man, I'm bouncing off the wall now.
You make me sound like an infomercial. I'm not running an infomercial. Listen, I was simply stating, number one, with the interesting thing about plants, God put plants here. And when used correctly, they can help the body naturally regenerate itself. Right. And that's what it was about. I don't understand the body. None of us do. We have a basic understanding, maybe, of what we can comprehend. And then you see stories like this, and even the past story, which you didn't use anything.
Right.
But the body has the ability to regenerate itself. When we leave it alone to a point, and we're not pumping poison into it. But it was amazing to see progress over time. I mean, it's such a motivational, and it's weird to hear a story like this and then actually know the person and see it. People are just like, what? I mean, the real crazy thing is you'll never guess his age. But let's talk about now what you want to get into, like the direction of your life now. because you've had two amazing stories happen, two trials. I call them tests from God. Because sometimes we'll go through something and we'll say, why am I doing this? And then afterwards you say, oh, because we learn through trauma. If you're at the circus, you're like, I'm fine, I don't need anything. It's when you're put into a test, your faith is tested, then you go, oh, that's it. Now I get it. So let's say the direction of your life now. What are you hoping to do now?
Well, right now, since I have like a new outlook on life and I'm not putting that poison into my body, I like to be a motivational speaker. I like to go and let people know there's hope, you know? You just try it and see what it does for you. Because I would have never thought in a million years that one pill would make me feel so good. It's like where I used to have pain in my back, pain in my legs, and the type of tumor I have is the tumor that makes you grow. So when I first had the stroke, I was 6'3", now I'm 6'5". I used to wear 9.5, now I wear 12.5. So it helps accommodate that pain as well. So I like to go around and tell everyone, just because you're paralyzed, that don't mean you're supposed to give up. Because you're looking at somebody who didn't give up. You're looking at someone who has a tumor right now in my pituitary gland. They can't take it out until it's 12 millimeters. Now, when I first had the stroke, it was 4 millimeters. Now it's 10 millimeters. So once it gets 12 millimeters, they'll be able to take it out. So I haven't given up. Even before I met Lance, I haven't given up. But now, since I have this new outcome and outlook on cannabis, it's like so rejuvenating. I feel so good. So I want to help others. I want to let others know that you can just try this pill. Try it one time. And once you try it, it'll speak for itself. You can't go wrong. Study putting all that poison in your body. Look at me. I'm 46 years old. I'm a grandfather, and I'm bouncing off the wall. I feel great.
People are going to say the most amazing thing that he's 46 years old. But in regards to his story, is inspirational. And what is the best way for someone to contact you? If I can be aware to give out your number. We'll post this stuff too. Is email a better way to contact you?
Email.
For speaking engagements?
Right.
And like I said with Lance, you're talking about motivation on another level. You know, when people are giving up, these are the stories that they need to hear to renew hope. No one wants to hear all the bad stuff. I mean, even though that stuff's going on in the world, to actually see and be inspired and to say, you don't have to give up, you can keep on going. That's the thing that's important. The other thing I want to bring up, he is in September issue of Elevate magazine.
Right on.
Here's the issue, look at that. I mean, I'll tell you what page he's on. This story's on page 28, so pick this up. You can still pick it up. What's a good email to contact you with?
You can contact me at lancedaniels1970@gmail.com.
And we'll put that up in the link so people can see it. And normally, for this part, I'll take a break, but you know what? We're just so I'm going to take a break. We're going to go right into it. This is a section I like to call news you may not have heard about. All right? Normally I have to guess. Guess has no idea what we're going to talk about. Sometimes I don't even know what we're going to talk about.
Right.
These are stories you may have missed in the news. Okay? So this week, because I was absent last week, thank you, by the way, everyone, for your prayers. I'm a little sick, and praise the Lord for helping me get better.
Man.
We are talking about statins. Now, I stumbled onto this a while ago. Some stuff comes across my desk at times, and I like to go over it. There are two sources for this. The reason I like these sources, they cite numerous studies. These are not my studies. I have no studies. Numerous studies. I will always, as always, post the links to these so you can go back and actually review these findings. One is Scientific American Mind. That is from September 1st, 2010. The title of that article is, It's Not Dementia, It's Your Heart Medication, Cholesterol, Drugs, and Memory. Second source is the Feel Good Guide. That is October 4th, 2015. So relatively recent ones, compiling numerous studies. That article is How Cholesterol-Lowering Drugs Destroy the Human Brain, Cause Dementia and Alzheimer's. So first, I'm going to give you some stats. Then I'm going to get into the fun stuff, all right? So, did you know that a quarter of your body's cholesterol is found in the brain? Quarter of it. Quarter of it, all right? Number two, research has found, this is research, has found that arterial plaque is, in fact, the body's way of healing inflamed tissue, and without high level of cholesterol, your brain cells die. I found those 2 points very interesting because a lot of what's out there would go against both of the things I just said. As of 2010, and this is how we're going to start this, hundreds had registered complaints with MedWatch. MedWatch is the FDA's adverse drug reaction database, but their studies were inconclusive. So what we're specifically talking about, I'm going to say the drug, it's Lipitor, but now that's come off a patent. So if you or someone you know is taking a statin, pay attention to a few things I'm about to plot for you. These are actual studies that are done across the board. This is over a 15-year time frame. So if you go to your doctor and you're stating there's been some studies done, I'm not talking about the FDA's, I'm talking about biophysicists and doctors and universities that have done these studies, okay? First study, 2 trials were done, one in 2000, one in 2004, published by Matt Muldoon, clinical pharmacologist at the University of Pittsburgh, okay? Both studies showed the link between statins and cognitive problems. Study published in 2003 in the Review of Therapeutics noted that among 60 statin users who reported memory problems to MedWatch, more than half said their symptoms improved when they stopped taking the drug. Study published in the Journal of Pharmacotherapy in 2009 found that 75% of people using these drugs experienced adverse cognitive effects. In 2011, a study published in the European Journal of Internal Medicine, Dr. Stephanie Seneff and her team found that low-fat diets and statin drugs had direct correlation between insulin resistance in the brain and early Alzheimer's. And this is my favorite study. Dr. Shin, a biophysics professor in the Department of Biochemistry, Biophysics, and Molecular Biology, in his experiments found that cholesterol increased protein function in the brain by 5 times, compared with one lacking cholesterol. Studies showed the direct link between cholesterol and neurotransmitter release. Dr. Shin stated, "We know exactly the molecular mechanics of what happens in cells. Cholesterol changes the shape of protein to stimulate thinking and memory." And the reason I'm bringing these studies up is because there's been specifically a lot of reports against Lipitor. I'm only picking on Lipitor because for a few years they had a patent. That patent soon ran out, and then you have other drugs like Zocor, which we'll get into. People have been reporting issues with statin drugs. So if you were a loved one that said, you know, my memory's going, the reason it's so important is because what statins are meant to do is lower your bad cholesterol. Well, I have a question. How can it tell the difference between healthy and bad cholesterol? What they've been finding in a lot of these studies is it's actually taking healthy cholesterol out of the brain, almost mirroring Alzheimer's. So the studies now catch up with the FDA that were inconclusive in 2010. In February of 2012, the FDA ordered drug companies to add warning about possible memory problems. So they finally said, okay, I guess there's something going on here. And people probably want to know why. Why would this happen? Well, it's a very easy answer. From 1996 to 2012, Lipitor became the best-selling drug of all time, with more than 125 billion, that's with a B, in sales. So from that time to that, and isn't that funny? From 19 to 2012, right as that patent worn out, that's when the FDA started making drug manufacturers list that. By the way, Pfizer's patent expired in 2011, and then generic versions were released like Zocor. Okay, I've got 2 quotes, and then we'll get into a little discussion here. One is from Ralph Edwards. He's the former director of the World Health Organization, Drug Monitoring Center in Sweden. He says, "We can't understand how a drug that affects such an important pathway would not have adverse reactions." That's the World Health Organization. And this is just a funny one. "The logic of lowering cholesterol levels to increase health is akin to lowering the number of fire trucks in order to decrease the number of fires." That's about the logic that they're using with this. My thing is this. We have a very slight understanding of how our bodies work, maybe. And it's things like this. When you take something synthetic, and I understand some people have good intentions sometimes, but when you're introducing something like this to the body and not understanding why our bodies produce cholesterol, so it's interrupting the body's natural function and then saying, well, your cholesterol's too high. Well, if you're taking it out of my brain, it's supposed to be there. I think we had talked about this briefly, about something. I know I have a few members of my family, and I'll speak on this directly because I've seen this firsthand. I had my mom and my dad and my grandmother were all on Lipitor. And the interesting thing is, I started seeing as we were doing health consulting, and I'm not a doctor, no, not at all. But I started seeing a few different things, early onset symptoms of Alzheimer's. The interesting thing is this, when you have a brain trauma, and I can speak from experience with this, you don't realize you have one. In each case, both with my mother and my father, they had no idea their memories were affected. And the interesting thing is this, the moment they got off the drug within a few weeks, they started functioning again. There was a haziness, and what do I mean by memory functions? They'd stop in the middle of sentences all the time. They'd forget what they were going to say. A family member would have to correct it. Other people would be like, oh, it's just them getting, no, it's not them getting old. These are the things we have to stop justifying and rationalizing. Thoughts on that article besides wow?
Yeah, well, basically, that's something like with my tumor in my pituitary gland, the side effects is memory loss. And, you know, you lose your eyesight and everything. So, you know, I literally have to jot down everything. So that's why I want to get into neuroplasticity as well, because that kind of, your brain cells just function and rejuvenate on its own. It's not like you're taking any medicine for it. It's like everything just falling into place. But, you know, you got to take the initiative first to want to do it.
And I mean, that's the key thing when people say we understand the body. Don't get sick. We can't even control our bodies. Are you kidding me? And that's one thing with cannabis. The reason that's an important thing is your endocannabinoid system, which I didn't create, was founded 35 years ago, all right, on record. We have receptors in the brain and the immune system. The interesting thing with the receptors in the brain, they help with neurogenesis. So a lot of things where you see stroke patients, traumatic brain injuries, Alzheimer's, memory issues, the neural pathways can be regenerated. We've seen this firsthand, not just with stroke patients, not just with Alzheimer's, but also with traumatic brain injuries, which is said to be impossible. See, how can we claim what's impossible? We don't even know what's possible. Are you kidding me? Well, I want to thank you, first of all, for coming on the show. This is great.
Right. Thank you.
Lance Daniels, we're going to give his contact information. If you'd like to contact him for motivational speaking, reach out, email him. If you're going to email him something good. All right, and as always, we'll see you next week. Stay close to Jesus and praise the Lord. I'm Lance Park.
Amen.